Hello and welcome back to another one of my videos. It's Shay Madeline, and today I am doing another drawing in Procreate. But today my drawing is going to be, again, another new one. This one is going to actually have a real background and setting, which the character will actually be a part of, instead of just the character kind of floating in space. Today though, this piece of art that I will be drawing is going to be kind of inspired loosely by some Studio Ghibli films and just kind of like that overall art style, and I'm excited for you guys to see how it turned out. Of course, like normal, I'm starting out with, just a rough sketch, and then later I will go through and ink it and do all the coloring. But for this drawing, I decided to draw a little witch. I normally don't draw people, but ever since I started this channel, for whatever reason, I have been really into making new characters. And for this drawing, I decided to actually make two, kind of three characters in this drawing, but this witch is the first character I draw, and I really like how she turns out. Right now, she's just a sketch, but she doesn't change much from this original sketch that you're seeing. I decided to name this witch Silas, though, because when I was researching different names to give witches, because I wasn't sure, one of the ones I saw was Silas, and that one is supposed to be associated with, like, having powers that originate from the woods, and that is kind of, like, the hope of the kind of powers and whatnot I want to give to this character, because for her lore and whatnot, I decided that she is going to be a witch that recently moved out, and she is looking for a place to stay, and she decided to live in this woods, which she is currently laying in right now. And the next character you're going to meet isn't really a character, but more so is a type of creature. And these creatures that I'm currently drawing, I have decided to call watchlings because their whole shtick is that they sit in the trees and they watch whatever is going on in the forest at the moment. So that's their whole thing. They're kind of like sprites, I guess, in a way, and just that they're kind of these mischievous little funny creatures that hang out in the woods and see what's going on. But yeah, they are the second character slash creature that I'm adding to this drawing today. And as you can see, they're kind of just cute little round guys. These do change a little bit from how I originally draw them. I draw them a few times, but in the end, they look pretty similar to how they are drawn right now. And if you look, there's actually the third character already showing up in my previous sketch. Because right now I am in the inking stage. I didn't show all of the sketching stage. But you'll see that there is this little fox-like thing at the bottom. That one changes a lot when I go through and I redraw and ink him up and whatnot. And he, as a character, is actually who I have deemed the king of this forest. So he is the one that's in charge of this forest, and he makes sure that all is going well. So when Silas shows up unannounced and then just starts napping next to this creek, and all of the watchlings, of course, come to check her out, he gets sort of notified and alerted that something is up, and so he comes to check it out. And as you'll see pretty soon, he changes a whole lot in the next way I draw him. As you can see though, as I'm going through and I'm inking up the trees, I'm actually playing around a little bit with different styles of, I guess, like shading, but also mainly like line weight. I keep seeing people talking about how important and how useful line weights can be and if you change them up. I don't know much about this because I haven't really done it much in any of my drawings, but I think it's an interesting way to go through and add a little bit more depth, so I'm going to try to incorporate it into more of my works. But I hope you guys like how it turned out in this drawing, and I hope that I also get a better, or just an easier understanding of how to use them in the future. But I do like how the sketch turns out. I think the trees especially turn out very good in this drawing. As I move on with the drawing, though, I'm trying to plan a little bit for when I get to the coloring stage. Because this piece is loosely inspired by the style of Studio Ghibli films, I decided to go for a sort of watercolor way of coloring this and shading it, which obviously it's digital art, so it's not actually watercolor. But I tried to find brushes that were similar and even like named watercolor brushes, which so I had to download a whole new set to do this. But I do like how it turns out when I go through and add the color, which obviously you can't see yet. But right now I'm just going through and I'm doing the line art for this little stream that Silas is laying by. I have it lined with rocks and little weeds and cattails because it kind of just gives off a little stream in the woods and it's cute, and I'm excited for you all to see how I'm able to color this in and sort of give it the watercolor vibe I am going for. But now it is time to meet the actual king of the forest. The little guy that I drew before is nothing like how he ends up in the end. This guy is much more regal and also just much bigger than the original sketch of him was. And in my opinion, this is much better. This is how he should be as a character. And as you see, I'm drawing him to really sort of cling on to the forest bit of his name. I want his antlers, which I gave him antlers even though he's a fox, but this is because I wanted him to blend into his surroundings. So I want his antlers to look like tree branches, even with little leaves and whatnot growing off of them. And his tail I want to look like long grass because there is a lot of long grass in this forest that he rules over. And when I get through to actually coloring him in, I give him brown fur instead of the regular red and white because, again, I want him to really blend in. So his tail, like I said, is grass. His antlers are the tree branches, and his body, in a way, is similar to a tree trunk, at least in coloring. And overall, I think it's a cool idea and a cool concept, and I really like how it turns out in actuality, although he does look a little bit like a Pokemon, but that's okay because I like him, and I really think he lives up to that name of being King of the Forest. What there is, though, to know about the King of the Forest is that he is very mysterious as a character, which is why humans and witch folk alike don't even know what his true name is. And all they do know about him is that he is this very intimidating creature that really cares about the forest, and he is not one to be messed with because he will take care of the forest in any way that he can. So Silas being here, because she is new to the area, she has not heard of him yet. So she doesn't know what kind of trouble she is currently getting herself into. But luckily, he is a fair and just ruler, so all he really needs before he figures out what he's going to do is just kind of figure out what reasons why she is there and figure out if she is going to hurt the forest in any way, and if not, likely he will let her be. But I don't know yet because I haven't gotten that far in the lore. All I have is right now he is currently upset that there is an intruder in his woods. Which I'm sure you can tell I haven't obviously thought a lot about the lore because I was tripping all over my words just then, trying to put into words exactly what I have currently going on in my head with what is going on. But I will get there. I do intend with any characters I make, at least the ones that I'm actually interested in, especially, to sort of give them a little bit of a story and lore behind them, especially like, I don't know, this world specifically that I'm making, I am excited about. My next video, which I have already started working on that art for, I don't know how much lore will be behind them because they aren't at all in the same universe, but this universe specifically, I really like the idea of, so I am kind of excited to build a little bit of lore behind it. I imagine I'd probably type something up and maybe post it on like my Instagram, or I don't know where exactly I'd post it, but I will try to get around to doing that, especially if people like show interest. If not, I will probably still do it because I want it written down somewhere. But yeah, just putting that into words for you guys. But anyways, as you can see, I am currently quite a ways into the coloring process. Something I really struggled with this drawing specifically is because I was trying to go for that watercolor look and vibe with this drawing. It caused me to have to learn how to use a new brush in Procreate, which normally is fine, and because I honestly change up my brushes all the time as I'm still figuring out which ones I prefer. But this one gave me the look I really liked, but it also made it very difficult to actually color in, especially larger spaces, because if I were to lift up the pen and then put it back down, over where I had already colored, it would be much darker and be very distinct. And that wasn't the kind of look I was going for. This was meant to just be like, oh, wash for my first color base layer because I wanted it all to be very even so that later I could go in and do all the extra designs, etc. But it's okay. The workaround that I ended up doing was I would first color it in, and instead of trying to stick within the lines, because then I would have to lift up my brush, I would instead just color it in really messily, all in one go. And then I went back and I erased all of the excess, which it kind of sucked to do it this way just because it did take quite a bit longer. but in the end it does work out. It just added on a little bit to the drawing time, but that's okay because overall the process is enjoyable. And then as you can see, I'm now kind of sort of finishing up the color blocking part of this, and then I'm able to go in and finally start working on the details, which really makes this drawing come to life, at least in my opinion, which as you can see now I'm currently working on the stream. Which, by the way, I don't know why or how, but this stream somehow took me just forever to figure out how exactly I wanted to go about adding the details. As you can see now, I'm playing around with different kinds of pens and different kinds of techniques to sort of show like the shiny bits in the middle. And then in the end, it does, at least in my opinion, turn out pretty alright. But it just took so long to get these little gradients in, but they're just so subtle that it doesn't even look like I'd put that much work into it. But I really did. But I think in the end that is what makes art so enjoyable, is those little sorts of processes that go into making everything look so good, even if most people won't notice it. But it's alright because it, you know what went on, and in the end it makes it exactly what you want it to be, or at least as close as you can get it, so you can at least be happy with what you made. Which, by the way, I don't mean to sound all preachy by saying stuff like that. I just do feel like most artists can relate to putting in those little details that you feel like nobody sees. But in the end, that is really what makes a piece of art really into something great. Once again, though, I am to that point in the drawing where I am adding in the finer details to it. And with the King of the Forest, this fox guy I'm drawing, I really struggled with him the most out of everything I drew. The background that I end up adding later and everything else that I draw, the little watchlings and Silas, I feel like they were really easy to add the details to, but he is just so big that you have to fill up a lot more space than like the others. Because with them, it's just like small little gradients and making light pop and whatnot. But with him, it's like there's just so much ground to cover that I felt like I didn't quite know how to fill the space. I hope I did a good job making him turn out, but you will have to let me know with what you think. And this drawing is getting near its end. As you can see, I messed around with the background quite a bit in this one, much more than the last few drawings I've done. And I also tried out some of the tools I haven't messed with much in Procreate. So with this one, I would do light and then I'd like blur it so then it would be a little bit softer. I think it turned out pretty cool. I like it. But yeah, I'm just going to wrap this up. Let me know what you think of this drawing, and yeah. I will see you next time, and here is the finished piece right now.